Well, welcome guys, and today I'm excited about this. I've been trying to make decent smoke in Eevee for the longest time, and I think we have done it, boys and girls. I think we have done it. And as you can see, it does react to the light, all that good stuff, and it's pretty easy to do. Unlike my last tutorial, this one is probably going to be a little bit longer because this has way more nodes. But I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible, and today, let's make some smoke in Eevee. And by the way, if you try to do this in cycles, it will not work. So this is an Eevee only function. How do you like that? Everyone always wants cycles. Today, we're doing Eevee. Let's get started. Okay, so here we are in Blender. We're gonna set up our scene real quick. I'll try to do this as fast as possible. I do things a little bit differently. I went ahead and brought in a smokestack, which I gave it a little more texture in there. It is not needed for this, but we're gonna use this in this tutorial just to demonstrate how the smoke will come out and what might be a smokestack. So first gonna go to the shading tab, and then we need to go down to the world, and we are gonna create a HDRI or a world for our environment right here. So first thing we need to do, we are going to add, hold down Shift A, environmental texture. We're not going to plug it into the background quite yet. So let me go ahead and load up the Drakenstein HDRI. So most of the time you would just plug it right into here, and then if you go to render view, we can see a environment. Now I do things a little different. Some of you guys are going to hate this. Some of you guys are going to love this, but this is what you'll have. You'll have a HDRI, and it is not really a process image. There's a lot of data. So what I do, I process it down to get it to look how I want it to look. And I know you guys are going to say that's not how you do it. Well, this is how I do it. And some of you guys are going to like this, and some of you guys are going to hate this. So first I'm going to hit on our texture, Control T, so we can have some coordinates, and that gives us the ability to rotate it around, oops, not that one, on the Z, and we can place the sun where it might be in our environment. I don't really overthink this. I just place it where the light's going to be. So let's go ahead and take our light right here, and let's convert it into a sun. And let's go ahead and just go to my custom quad view. Now, if I do and say things wrong, guys, my apologies. I'm coming from 3ds Max. I am not a Blender guru, so if I say or do things wrong, please cut me a little bit of slack. Now, the sunlight, it's not going to work off of like position, but I'm just going to put it over here just so it's easier for me to see later on, and it's not going to be our particles that we're going to make. So I'm just going to rotate this and put it, you know, in somewhat of the location of where the sun will be coming through. So right there, it looks pretty good. Now, if you notice, this is not a default cube. I have my scene set up a little bit different as it is a camera track. So if we go here and we hit G on the Z, we can move it up and down and get it where we want. So I'm going to take our camera right here. I'm going to move it here. Like I said, this is a custom workspace that I made to be more like Max because I'm not quite fully acclimated yet, guys, but I'm getting there. So we'll go ahead and put this right here for right now. We'll go over to our light. I'm going to make it a little bit wider, like 25. Right, so it's 25. We got more of the scene in there. Let's go back to the shading tab. We'll go work on this environment. So we have this guy right here, this guy right here. Now I'm going to hit Shift A, and we're going to search for a RGB to black and white. I'm going to plug this guy into here, and another Shift A, and we're going to do color ramp right here, and then down here, Shift A again. We're going to do a RGB curves, plug it right there, put this guy right here. We're going to take this background, Control C, Control V, we're going to duplicate it, and then we are going to take this guy into a mix node. So I believe that is, there's a keyboard shortcut for this. I believe it's Control, see if I get it right. If I remember right, Control 0. Aha, yes, mix node, there we go. We got that correct. And then we're going to take this guy into this color right here. We're going to take this into this, and then this into, wait, yeah, this right here. Then we're going to add one more node, Shift A, and we're going to do a mix shader. Put this guy right here. You know, I lied because we need one more node. It's also going to be Shift A, and we're going to search for a light path. light path, put this guy up here. We're going to plug this is camera ray into the factor. All right, so what does this do? I like this. This isn't what everyone does. I like it a little better. So if we control and shift, we can just go to this node right here. We can see what's going on. See, this is black and white, and we can adjust, you know, make it a little more punchy right here. And if we go back to this node right here, which is the mix, what we have is a way to blend the black and white to the color. See that? But if you notice, if we go to the very end, let this complete this whole section, we can adjust this, and it is only controlling our ambient lighting for this guy right here. So we can make it a little more punchy this way, a little more contrasty this way. And we can also add mood lighting, like, you know, let's say we want to add a little bit of mood lighting, like ugly green like that. But we can add some mood lighting to give that a little more effect, but we're going to keep it black and white for right now. So depending on what you're using this for, I think it works really well because it gives you way more control over your scene. This one right here controls the intensity. So we can bring this down to where it is only using the light from the sun. And then if you bring this up, it is really blowing everything out. So we can control exactly how that looks. And not only that, but we can go right down here and control just the background to dial it in to our heart's content. Use these curves, make it a little more punchy in the background. So that is a node setup that I use for my world HDRI. It's not really an HDRI, but I like it because I think it works better. So that is the scene setup, almost. So we need to go back to my quad view, just so I get here very quickly. Click on our light. We also need to go to our shadows, contact shadows. Go down here to the little camera guy, and ambient occlusion, bloom. We're not going to use screen space reflections or motion blur or depth of field in this guy right here. So I think we are pretty much set up. Let's just go down to the shadows and turn this up so we have more definition. And we'll just do right around here. That should be good for right now. And there you go. That is the scene setup. So now let's get to making some particles. All right, so let's make some particles. This is one of my least favorite things in Blender is its particle system. The particle system quirks and it quirks hard. So we're gonna take the 3D cursor, put it on the top, and we're gonna add ourselves a cylinder. We're gonna tab into it and delete those bottom vertices. Tab back into it, and we're gonna go set origin to center of mass, so it's right in the middle. Let's move our sphere, or sorry, our cylinder, at least what's left of it, into the center of our smokestack. We will scale it down. Oops. Scale it down, not rotate it. So it's a little small point. And I found that just works best for the particles. Alrighty, so now we're going to go to this guy right here, hit the plus, and we have a particle system. But they're going to be going in the wrong direction. They're going to be going down. But before we mess with anything else, let's go ahead and give it like 1500. And we'll do the start frame negative, let's do start at 200. So we'll start kind of halfway through, and we'll give it a lifetime of 400. So right around 200 in here, they should start popping out of existence. But we're gonna put the in frame right here, we're gonna put it way past 200. Because like I said, Blender quirks with its particles, and I mean it quirks hard compared to other programs. But you really can't complain because it's a free application. It has a lot of good features besides this, so I should just shut up. So now that we have that happening, we have them coming out, they're going straight down. We need to change the direction. So the direction they need to go in is straight up. So we're gonna go to our field weights and turn our gravity right here. Let's close some of these stacks so we can see. Turn the gravity all the way down. And now, if we play it, it's going straight up. So it's still going straight up. It's going slower because we're going to use some wind to control our particles because that's the way smoke works. It is really just a particle that is controlled by the wind. So we're going to go to, you think it would be, you know, the speed. You think the speed would be in the velocity tab, right? Oh, but it's not. If you go to physics. And then if you go to integration, it is right here. We're going to go 0.01. And now they should be a lot slower. They're nice and slow now. And see that quirk? See how this went ahead and just said, I'm going to be way up there? That's one of the quirks with these particles. I do not know why it does it. Maybe it's just a 3.4 issue. And we're going to hit the seed, and that should clear it up. One more seed. This restarted over. And there we go. Now it's working right. So I go back to 0. I'm going to click the seed again just to clear all that out. And we're going to add some wind. So I'm going to go right here down to force fields. We're going to add some wind. We'll move that underneath our particles. Right there. And we're going to go to this guy. It looks like a planet going around the sun, or with the moon going around the Earth. And we're going to turn up the strength some. And we'll see that, watch, they are now going up even further, right? So we need another one of these. But first, we need to have a max distance so we can set an area of influence. It'll only happen in here. And as it gets closer, it should get more powerful. And we're going to copy that, move it up. One little quirk I'll show you. You want to click on it. Now you're on that, and we can set a little more distance. We're going to rotate it this way. Move it right here. Let's make this a little bit larger area of influence. Let's move this right up here. Make that a little bit larger. So now they're both kind of interacting with each other. Let's make this one just a little bit larger. So if we go back to 0, we play it, it is now starting to push our particles that way. So you can kind of see what we're doing here. But I'm going to move this right here in the middle of the stream. Make another one, click on it, make this slightly larger. Right here. And we're going to make just one more. Right here. Rotate it. Rotate it. So it'll pull them, as you can see, kind of that way. Let's make this last one a little bit larger. So let's go back to 0. Let's see what happens. So they're going up. They're still going a little slow, so let's turn up the power on this one. Let's give it a little bit of noise. Let's go to this one. Turn up a little more. What was the power of that one? 2.2. Let's go this one. A little more. 2.2, 2.5. And that one we will do 2.7. So let's see how that works. All right, let's start this guy just a little bit sooner. Let's go -4, -300. Let's give it a little more life, like 450. And let's see how that looks. There we go. Now we're getting a little more smoky effect. Now, another thing you can do too is you can go to these guys right here, and I'm going to insert a keyframe, go here, rotate it up like this.
Insert keyframe, go right here, rotate it that way, a little more, insert keyframe, and then let's do a little bit right here, insert keyframe, and right here we'll go up again, really fast, insert keyframe, you'll see this will start to break up our smoke, like it's actually being hit by the wind. But this is not quite right, so we need to add just a little bit of noise to this guy. So let's go ahead and add just a little bit of noise. A little more noise. Alright. See, now there we go. Let's turn the power up on this first one just a little more. So we can push it up a little sooner. And you can see we're starting to get a little bit of variation in there. Kind of like the wind taking it and pushing it, right? So we'll do that to these other guys right here. We'll start this one kind of like this. Oops. And we'll rotate this one like this. Rotate like this. And we'll say you want to give it a jerk in here. So that's how it looks. So yeah, you can see how if you play with this a good bit, it will give you some variation in the smoke.
We can now go down to, I believe, the velocity. Yes. And we can randomize it just a little bit. And let's see how that should break them up a little more as they come out. See that? Now that we got a little bit of a randomness going on, we have a bit more randomness in the entire thing. And we're also going to go down to rotation, get some randomized rotation. Let's just turn this phase back right here, this right there, and that should be decent enough. So now that we got our particles, we need to add some smoke. So that is next. Okay, so now it's time for our dark materials. So we need to add an object to be our smoke. So let's go ahead and add a UV sphere. That looks good. See, about 18 on the segments and about 15 on the rings, so work just fine. So we'll go to our object and we'll just go smooth shaded. So in order to save time, because this tutorial is getting longer, probably longer than people want it to be, let's go to the shading tab. So what I did to save time, I brought in the material, but I'm still going to show you how it's put together. I have all the nodes. These are the base of the nodes right here, but we'll put them all together. So this will save a little time. So the whole thing starts off with a noise texture. We have a mapping node, texture coordinates. We need to animate that smoke or give it the appearance that the smoke is billowing. So we're going to take the factor into this color ramp. And if we just singleize that out, we can then give it a little bit of contrast. And we can now see that this right here, let's go ahead and add it to our particles. It's going to be in the render. So instead of halo, we're going to go to object. We're going to select our sphere. So now we have this sphere. There's a whole bunch of them, all the same size too, right? So we need to first, so we can get a better idea how this is going to look, we need to add a texture to this. We'll go new. We'll name this size. And we're going to click on this guy right here. See, it went from here to here. So you want to come back to your particles. This is where it's going to go for the texture. So instead of image, we can go to blend. And if you go down, it says mapping. Instead of this guy right here, we need to go to strand particles. And they need to go to the size right here. And then down here, color ramp, click on color ramp. And this will give us the ability to adjust our size over time. Go to plus right here. And we can maybe a little bit small right there. At the very end, we want them to be completely as big as they can be because they're going to fade out. I'll show you how to make them fade out later. So let's go ahead back to our size, make this a little bit bigger. Let's give it a little more randomness. And yeah, see they're popping out. We don't want them just to pop out of existence. We want them to fade out into existence. And this is what this texture right here is going to do. So now, I know you're tempted. You probably be right here and you click on this and go to new. You can't do it on the particle system. It's all done by our object right here. So let's click right here. And let's just move it this way, get it away from our particles. So let's start off. First, you want to create a noise texture. And then, of course, you're going to give it mapping coordinates. So what we're going to do now, we need to make this look like it's actually moving. So we're going to go right here to the rotation. And let's go to frame 0. We're going to insert a keyframe here. Go to here. Give it a couple of random values. And then insert another keyframe. And if you're in this, you can't see the keyframes, just select right here the mapping node. Now we can see the keyframes. And now we need to go right here to the graph editor. If you want one of these, all you do is simply just drag down here and then you just select it right here for your timing. So that's how I got that. So then we're going to zoom into this and we need to select all these keyframes. So instead of animating it over time from like 0 to like 1,000 or whatever, I'll show you an easier way. We're going to go to linear. We're going to go Shift D and then go to linear extrapolation. And that way it'll go on to infinity and beyond. So all we got to do now, we can watch our particle, see how we're getting a little rotation there, look like it's billowing. And also when you're in here, make sure on yours that you have the random rotation set. Because if not, these will be in the same orientation and it'll look very, very tiled. So you want to play around with this phase and the random rotation. Let's go back to this guy then. Make sure you're on your mapping node for the animation. And what we can do, we can just move this guy here, this guy here. So what it's going to do, you can see the more angle we have on this, the quicker the animation is going to be. See how it's moving there? Take this guy and move it up a little bit right here. See, we're starting to get a little animation. So we can just sit here and move this. The harsher angle it is, the faster it'll go. See? Now it's starting to move pretty quick, and that's looking pretty good. So you got a little bit of building effect. Now, since these are at random location on this, because we randomize it, don't animate it on a particular axis because you might have some going apparently this way or that way. This won't look nearly as good. It looks better on the rotation. I've tried it both ways, and rotation is where it's at. So now that we have our noise, and we have it animated, we need to make this sphere not look so much like a sphere, right? Because that doesn't look very good. It looks like an odd, weird looking like snake thing, right? So what we need to do now, we need to make the outside transparent. And this is how this is going to work. So on the geometry node, we're going to take a layer weight. We're going to plug the back facing into a color node, and we're going to set the color node, the RGB mixer, to like add right here. So the back facing is going to go to B. And then we're going to take the forward facing and take it to A. Make sure this is on add, and make sure the factor is 1.0. We're going to take the final results into the factor. So if we click on this, you can see that this outside is black and inside is white. Now, when you first click on this, it's always going to have the first one's black and this one white right here. So you're going to have to just swap those. So that way, the outside's black, because black will be transparent, white will be non-transparent. That's what Blender does as alphas. And you're going to mess with this blend to give it a little more blend right here. See if you go, I think it comes with 1 or maybe like a 0.5, I think. So you need to mess with this blend. Usually like, 0.9 seems to work pretty well. And you can even add another one of these right here. Give it a little more value. So that way it fades out a little more on the edge if you want. So that's up to you. You can play around with that, and we can mess around with this later on too. So now what we need to do, we need to mix both of these together. So I have a mix node here. So we take the color into A, color into B here, and if we select a multiply, factor to 1. So let's go ahead and see how this looks right here by going Control Shift and clicking on it. We can now see that using the multiply ignores the white and it only adds the black. So that way, if we were to plug this guy into the alpha right here, let's make this bigger so you can see it. It's pretty small. So let's move this right here. So we're going to take this multiply, which is on both of these guys right here, into the alpha, and hit Control and Shift on this guy. We now get to see that it's nice and transparent. But if you just made a sphere, it's going to be set up on opaque like this. So it's not going to give you the same results. So what you need to do is go down to alpha hashed on both of those settings on your sphere in this materials properties settings, and you can take back facing. We can just click that off. So we're going to use alpha hashed on both of those, the blend mode and the shadow. And now if we kind of come out, we can see a little bit what's going on here with this smoke. Start to look a little bit like smoke. So we're going to play it. We have this smoke animating, so it looks like it's billowing in here. And that's pretty much the start of our smoke effect. But we need one more key ingredient for this to work. Because you see, it's just popping out over time. We don't want it to pop out, we want it to fade out. Now, one thing about Eevee is the particle info node right here. Just down so you can see it a little better. This particle info node does not work in Eevee. It only works in cycles. So the easiest way is to do particle age. So as it gets older, you can fade it out. This guy doesn't work, so don't even worry about it. We got another solution. Adrian over at CG Cookie turned me on to this solution, and it works really well. Now, it's a trick. There is some, little fallbacks to this, but it works pretty darn good. So the object info, we're going to take the location and plug this into the vector. So it's going to take the location of our particles, and we're going to take the Z, which is going straight up right here, and we're going to plug that into the top value here. Make sure this math node, this is the math node right here. So you go to math node, you're going to have to click divide, and then take this value right here into the value of the map range. Map range will just be map range when you search for it. So we're going to click it right there. This should be like 1 when you first make it, like 1. You're going to have to play around with these. I just know 2.2 works for this one, or 2.1 works for this one. We just put the 1 right now. I think it's going to be 0 to 1, 0 to 1. Then we take the map range and plug it into a color ramp right here. So if we were to view this, let's see how it looks. So you can't say anything. The whole thing is going to be transparent. So we need to take this value right here, this divide value, and move it around until we start to see something. See that? And move it till the black is right around there. So you guessed it, the blacks can be transparent and the whites can be less transparent. Then we can go to our color ramp and we can adjust these values how we like. White would be all the way non-transparent. I'm going to go ahead and make this, what I like to do, I like to make this one black right here too. Oops, right here. So that way we can see where this starts. So it's not starting until right around here, right? So like, you can just mess around with these. It's just going to be a trial and error part and how big your scale is and all that. So we know that this is going to be all the way white right here. This we can adjust a little more on our transparency. So if we were to take this color and plug it into another mix node, have it multiply, RGB mix if you're in the older blender, take it into A, take it to the end of the stack here and plug this one into that one. Remember, the multiply is going to ignore the white and it's just going to add black. And then if we were to take this into the alpha, let's go ahead and preview the whole thing so we can see how it's all working. You can now see and make sure the factor is all the way up, else it's not going to do it right. So now you see we have what's going to fade it out over time or appear to be over time, and we can have this guy moving right now. So you can see the animation going on right here, the smoke's billowing, it's moving. We can at any point, we can come back here and adjust how much contrast is in here. Remember, the black will be more transparent. So let's go ahead and finish this out for right now. And we can see exactly what's going on. Now, I got a little ahead of myself. Let me go ahead and make this 0. And we'll talk about this in a second. So now we can see we can make it more transparent. We can make it a little more detailed by adjusting the scale. See how it's making the scale different. And we can preview it at any time. It's a little hard to see when it's all transparent, so you want to see the this guy right here, how it's moving. So that's looking pretty good, I think. That's a good little bit of motion. So let's go ahead back here, Control Shift and just see the entire material from start to end now. Let's get rid of this, we don't need this. So like I said, we can adjust this however we want. So now that we have this working from this color to that, we can, let's make sure, see, uh-oh, we have a problem here. Let's bring this back. All right, there. Now it should be fading out over time. There we go. All right, so it's not popping out of existence. So we can take this right here, Control C, Control V. There we go. Okay, here we go. So we can take this, since it's doing it, remember it's going from here to there. We can plug this into the color, right? So now our color, we can adjust. It'll be maybe, let's make it a kind of a darkish brown here, maybe. And, or we can make it look more like smoke if it's a grayish color, maybe a grayish brown. Like this. And at the very end, we can make it maybe a white. I think smoke turns more white at the end. like right around there. So you can color your smoke over time, and at any point, if you want this to be a little more dense, you just come back to your particles and we can adjust the scale. But just be aware that it may go through right here your chimney, so you might have to adjust your size right here to compensate. So we can just do this right here. So now we have a little bit thicker smoke. See that? Not too bad, right? And it's completely adjustable. It's just a balancing act of taking all that in there and adjusting it so it'll work right. Now, another cool thing you can do too, you can also take this guy and copy it. Move it. Yep, come on. C, Control B. Holy moly. Maybe my control button's messing up. You can plug it into the subsurface, right? Oh, sorry, the color. Into the color. And then we can take this and watch. You turn this up. Starts to make our smoke look a little more translucent. Kind of how smoke works, because the light's got to come through there and refract. So using that and adjusting your colors is just another way to fine-tune your smoke exactly how you want it to be. Maybe a little more white up there, a little more white up top, or we could add blue, a little bit of purple. Not purple, let's do more of a blue. So you can see we can adjust all those values over time. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so finally, I wanted to show you the scene which you saw with the little rainbow smoke. This one I tweaked with for quite a while. And let me go to the shading tab and you can see what we did to make this happen. So not only can you feed those values into your color, you can feed those values into anything you want. So I have this color ramp going into this emission with a little multiply right here on a map node. You can change your value and then you can add a little more color right here. So you can see you can do a lot of really cool things. This one's actually pretty heavy. I have a 4080 in my machine, and this one definitely is chugging a little bit, but it's still, if I just go back to the layout real quick, you can still see if I render this, render image, and here is the render. I kind of skipped through it, but it rendered in 20 seconds. So even with all those effects going in there, I even have depth of field, motion blur, everything going on that you can do to Eevee, it still renders in a reasonable amount of time. So I hope you guys liked this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for future updates. Until next time, peace out.